be a micromanager. You need to be in the details. You need to look at every little thing and get it right.
Can make more products, we can create more businesses, but we can't create more time. That's kind of we are all kind of kept to 24 hours a day.
Welcome to Get Your House in Order, where the Medici brothers, investors and entrepreneurs Cris Auditore and Dr. Philip Zimmermann discuss timeless principles of success, significance and legacy. A podcast for business owners who want to design a beautiful life and a beautiful business. Sponsored by the one and only exclusive Medici community.
Welcome back to Get Your House in Order, where I talk with my favorite brother, Cris.
I'm his favorite.
Yes, you are my favorite.
Very favorite.
Because you're the only one. One.
I'm the best one that could ever be there.
Yes, after you, there's no one else. There's no one else. Today we're talking about the topic: being a control freak is a sickness. Being a control freak is a sickness. Cris, this comes actually out of a personal story. Give us context of the title and why this is an important topic for you.
Yeah, a few years ago we did a checkup. My wife and I, in conversation with a clinical psychologist. Life circumstances got very complicated. There was too much stuff going on the verge of burnout. My wife was not doing well, and you need to get some help. And sometimes you have to talk with people who really understand how the body functions, how the mind functions. We've got a whole stories that we can share about. How we needed to learn on how to create a good marriage and a good family setup. I'm very open about that. But to the topic today, we were in a conversation in a room with a clinical psychologist, and he said exactly this sentence. That, it came up about me being a bit of a control freak. I said that, with a smile on my face, hey, I'm just a control freak. And he looked at me and said, to be a control freak is a sickness. It's a clinical condition. And I was, it felt like he had hit me with a hammer. And then he explained, that it is very, very clear. Psychologically, if you have the need to control the every little details, then there's something wrong with you. It's a sickness. Now, I don't know how many books I've read, business books, on the topic of management, and you need to get your stuff in order, get your house in order, and control.
Be a control freak.
Be a control freak, with your numbers and your systems. So I had always prided myself and said it with a smile and proudly. I'm a control freak. I like my things to be organized. I like to dictate how I want things to be done, and my people know about it. My family knows about it, and when he said it, it's like, oh, this is a wake up call. And since then, I've really thought a lot about this topic of being in control and my need of being in control, whether that is good. And so I hope this is a message that goes out to a lot of people to start thinking about this topic.
Well, especially business owners, if we have some success, often it is because especially in that first phase of building something, we are really control freaks in building. And then actually getting to the next level, we actually have to give away control in order for really something substantial to actually be built. Now, I want to just unpack some of the things that you just said. First of all, I would just say do a quick timeout and say, getting help in any area of life is not a weakness, it's actually a strength. Now, in business, when we look at something that's not working, there's some technical problem, we have a software glitch, we have a marketing aspect where we need maybe something, we want to go into a new area. We are looking for people who help us be expert in this one field because we have identified a solution, a problem, and they are actually offering a solution. Now, it's crazy how many people we talk with, and we even are at fault in our own lives so often that we don't make that transfer over to our personal lives. It only started when we really were thinking, we're saying, creating a beautiful business alone is not the goal. It needs to be creating a beautiful life. So if there is a problem in your life, get help. And that is actually a strength rather than a weakness. And it's so strange that sometimes, I would be very quick in getting some help for our business. But if I have something in my marriage that's not working, I'm not getting that help.
And let me jump in here for a second. Is that I don't know how many conversations I've had with guys about marriages and about their marriage, and that where actually one of them, one of the partners in the marriage actually has this tendency to be a control freak. Now, I'm thinking of one couple where he has this endless need to always clean something perfectly. Now, it may sound a
that's
little bit...
That's not you.
Well, that's that's definitely not me. But like when the kitchen, he would always be irritated if there's something in the kitchen laying around. If the dishes, if not every dish is kind of at its perfect space. Very much a control freak. And, and they literally, they've gone through a divorce by now. But one of the absolute big points was the kitchen and his need of the house always being in perfect order. And now, guys, I'm speaking here as the guy who wrote Get Your House in Order. So I'm all for a tidy and a clean house. We pay some cleaning people to help us. So I like it nice and clean, just to make sure. But there's a limit. There's a limit, and some people in relationships, they miss that limit. They become so obsessed. And I really want to talk about an obsession here. I know business guys who are obsessed in some areas. Some obsessed with their numbers, obsessed with how their employees behave, obsessed with what the office looks like, or their family lives. And today I want to say that can absolutely be destroying your life and your marriage and your company and your legacy. If you have
so people always look at it from two extremes. You either are a control freak or you feel like the other options. Oh, but I don't care. And then the answer is like, but I need to care. And we all heard the 80-20 rule. That 20% of what we do gives us 80% of the results we are getting. So there's in any area of our lives, the 20% basically, of our customer give us 80% of our money. And there are things in your business and also things in your personal life where I think you need to be in control and you need to be a control freak. But if it is 100%. You're gonna destroy your marriage. You're gonna destroy your team and the people you're working with. So you need to kind of find out what are really the things that are really important for you.
Yeah.
That you can say these are the things. Even if you communicate this with your wife and your partner or your husband, and you're saying, these 5 things. I know I'm very particular with that, but knowing that's good. Now, if it's 100 things, and if it's everything and nothing, you basically will not survive.
Well, I also want to talk for a second here about raising kids, because a lot of kids suffer under parents who are overly controlling. I don't, I know 1,000 stories, but I'll tell myself my own story. That there's this running joke within our family when we go on family vacation and we get everyone in the car. We always buy water bottles for the ride, because I don't want to stop, at every gas station to get something to drink. So we always buy a big pack of plastic water bottles to put in the car. Now, the running joke in our family is that I get so mad if there is this noise of water bottles in the package wrapped with plastic is making this squeaky noise. I don't even want to make it because otherwise no one's going to listen to our podcast anymore. But it's this noise when plastic and bottle, they kind of rub each other. And so numerous times. So we're going on skiing vacation. In January, we get ready. We jump in the car early 5 o'clock in the morning. We head down to Switzerland, and I get furious after like 2 kilometers. Perhaps we were even on the autobahn. I pull over. And I rip apart all these water plastic bottles so that all the bottles are dispersed all over the car, that they don't make this crazy noise. Well, now we cannot go on vacation without someone commenting about my water bottle problem and the plastic, and even now on our last vacation a few weeks ago. The kids again mentioned the water bottle because I get so angry. I get so angry. I get so frustrated, and I rip the whole thing apart. And
you're a control freak.
Well, and so leading to that is that's something my kids can laugh about now. But how many have suffered under a parent that gets so angry? So anger. We never talk about this topic, but anger in families kills families. A husband who gets angry at his wife and kind of gets violent, that kills a family, that kills a marriage. Parents towards their kids, if they are too demanding, if they're too controlling, it can kill the relationship. And people, I know so many people that don't want to talk to their parents, that have broken up relationships. And so, the topic, the title of this episode is so close to my heart here. Being a control freak is a sickness. I've come to see that, and I'm guilty. So, I just really want to say I'm guilty because I've got this tendency. I can, in our offices, I remember many years ago, it was when I came to the office, everyone kind of sat up a little bit straighter. Everyone kind of, and I almost prided myself with that habitus that when I show up, everyone is kind of behaving. Everyone is kind of, in order. And there's a good side to that. There's a good side. There's a leader, who's in control. But there's a negative side to that. There's a negative side, and I want to confess that, and I actually want to point that out because we need to talk about delegation. We need to talk about empowering people. We need to talk about empowering teams and also getting to the next level. So let's talk about that. But I really want to confess here.
Yeah.
That, again, I'm not the expert. I'm rather a bad example on this.
So I even had the conversation with my wife just a few days ago that we realized that. So my daughter is 3, Zoe is 3 right now, and we kind of look at all these kids and the way kids are behaving. I just want to kind of slap them and like, somebody needs to raise you, and I don't want my daughter to end up like some of these kids. And then I look at some of the teenagers, how they walk around, and I'm like, I'm scared. So I have a long list of being what is important. And my wife is the same thing. She also has a long list. So our tendency is actually to be too strict. And when we looked at the list where it is important to us, each one would be justified. Each one we could give you actually arguments of why we don't want, that she kind of closes her mouth when she eats. Well, she's 3, that she kind of pays attention, that she says thank you, and all of these things that if you look at them one by one, you feel like they are important. But if you look at the whole list, you go like, that for a 3-year-old, that is way too much. And so we had to kind of really adjust and kind of really navigate. But we are also not a good example there.
Yeah, so I think we have to go back to what you said earlier, Philip. There's in different stages, there's different behavior necessary. So at the beginning of setting up, let's say, a business, you want to get the tone right. You want to get the things excellent that you want your company or your product, your processes to shine. So there is a level of micromanagement necessary in order to make sure every little screw is all the way tight and it's a good picture, because things get sloppy over time. That's why I'm not an evolutionist. Evolution theory says things get better over time. It started all bad and it gets better. That's why I'm not an evolutionist. I think things get worse over time. At least that's my experience as a business owner. If you leave things unmanaged, uncatered for, they don't get better. They get worse. So that's why at the beginning you need to and then and then as you involve more people, because you involve more people and you can't look at every detail anymore. It kind of grows. Now I think it's almost like, I would say, like a pendulum swinging back and forth. And so, sometimes, you're on the big picture, strategy, not micromanagement, delegation, let your people do. And then the pendulum needs to swing back, and you need to actually go in, have a look, sit down, look at the numbers, get every little account out, and actually take the time and actually get into the mini details, and then swing back. So for me, a good business leader really is on that spectrum, but it doesn't stay kind of in the sickness component of just being micromanager.
Yeah. So one solution of not being basically a control freak is actually learning kind of the art and science of delegation, which would really kind of, from everything, we can make more money. We
Whether you're a billionaire or you're broke, you've got the same amount of time.
Unless you basically learn to delegate, so you can actually take something off your plate that would rob you of an hour, and you can give it to somebody else who actually can accomplish it. And that is so that's why delegation is one of the biggest leadership skills that you need to master on the one hand, but also it's the from all the tweaks you can do with productivity hacks. If you learn the art of delegation, basically you can win any race when it comes to productivity.
Well, I remember just now in one of our coachings, you gave a brilliant kind of framework about delegation. So I've always just thought about team delegation. I hire people on my team, and so I've got tasks on my desk, and now I don't want to do them. So for me, this was always why I'm a student of delegation.
Who can I dump this on?
So who can I give this? Okay, and let's not dump, please. Here's we have to laugh. We've got some. Yeah, Chris is not the best one. We
can call some people.
We
have some testimonials here that we can.
We have some people where it didn't go well on my delegation part. Anyhow, so but then but you gave a whole framework, Philip, on how to think about delegation, and now let's move to some business principles here, or a framework on how that works.
So the way I like to look at it is actually there are 5 different levels of delegation. So it's almost like a pyramid. And so at the bottom pyramid, and we can talk about each one. So I'll go quickly, and then we can go and take each, because each one takes a different kind of a skill, number one, and each one takes a different kind of person who can actually master and that, or would be the ideal person you want to delegate to. And if you are mixing this up in your business, you're just going to create confusion. You're going to create frustration. So at the bottom line, if you think of, if you look at it, there's a pyramid. If you hear us, just imagine a pyramid. At the bottom line, there is tasks. So we have to, first of all, learn how to delegate tasks. And there are actually a bunch of rules that you and we can go through a few of them if here in a second. But they're just something that if you want to delegate a task to somebody like your personal assistant, somebody basically who's helping you on a team, you need to kind of really get the task right to delegate it. The next one is basically a KPI. So there is a known key performance indicator. So you have done your basically you are in an area where you've identified there's a number to this kind of area of responsibility, and I'm going to give you this area of responsibility, and I want that you do a certain KPI. Let's say you're an outbound calling a person, a setter, basically in the sales team. So you basically have a KPI of, let's say, calling 100, dialing 150 people a day, or whatever your number is. and that is a KPI. You're going to get held accountable to that. I'm delegating not the task, I'm delegating basically a number. Now, the third category in that pyramid is the category of a goal. So there is basically a goal that I basically have identified that I want to make this goal happen, and I'm thinking who can help me that. There's a great book by Dan Sullivan, Who, Not How, who actually talks about the third and fourth aspect of delegation. Now, I still am a big believer you need to learn the foundational pieces of delegation when it comes to the tasks and the KPIs, because they actually play in. But it's a totally different way of delegating, because you're actually delegating to a certain goal, and you don't really care of how they're going to accomplish it, because that goal is basically what gives them what they will be measured on. Now, the last one is basically a project. So a project is a even bigger category of delegation, which can include quite a few goals, sub goals, KPI tasks underneath that project.
So up to this point, as you gave that teaching in one of our coaching sessions, I'd always just thought of the task level. For me, delegate. If I heard the word delegation, it was always just about I don't know, who writes the email, who goes and picks up the mail, and who drives the car across town. This was the level. But and the others, I kind of thought in the realm of leadership. So if you work with teams on leadership development, you need to empower leaders. You need to give them goals. And so for me, this was actually an eye opener that this is also a form of delegation. And some of the principles that I'm applying on how I delegate at the bottom is also actually the same mechanism that I apply at a higher level. So perhaps you can just explain. So how does one delegate?
Yeah, so it really depends on the different level. Let's start with the first level, the task level. It's really, I'm a big believer in basically the camcorder rule, and that is when I do something that I want to delegate, I actually create a screencast on my computer where I talk through what I want to do, what I want to do. So it's the easiest way to actually get something recorded and kind of delegate it, so that my assistant or an operational manager or a designer or whatever can kind of see, not just in written form, but I just click one button on my computer and then basically records my screen, and I talk them through what I want to be done, how I want this email to be written, what is the context. So the best practices are that you actually explain, what is the outcome, what are certain steps that are needed, some context. Also, even if they don't need to know the why, it can help. The way we are wired is really understanding why is this important. What are you basically really wanting to see? And then in the past, you normally have a task where some things went wrong, and if you can even mention that, to say, what, we sent this email out, and you have to check the mobile version. Basically, you have to kind of make sure that this happened in the past, that this didn't work, or you've already created this playbook or this process. Then it's easy. You can just basically delegate the playbook. And say, what, here's the structure, here you can delegate.
And as you are talking about this, I can immediately spot why I'm doing it wrong, or why I've done it wrong so many times, because I just assume all the time that people have my head. And the way I think about things is that the way they think about things. And that's, that's just not the case. I've got a certain way over years of experience, and
that is one of the big mistakes. And so we normally, what it happens with business owners is, we get to a tight deadline. We're like, okay, I should delegate this. I have a team. What am I paying them for anyways? So I'm throwing them a half-assed instruction over, saying that this needs to be done yesterday. They stay all night doing it. I get it back, and it looks like crap. It's not at all what I wanted, and I feel like, why are they so stupid? Why didn't they come back to me like that? And so I have to do it. I cancel all my meetings. I have to do this. Thanks very much. and I'm just frustrated. They are frustrated. Everybody's frustrated, and this delegation thing doesn't work. So that is.
And you revert back to micromanagement.
And you
get back to kind of the problem of this whole topic is that because you haven't learned how to properly do it, is then you're using your force and your presence and your authority, which you have as the boss of the organization, is to kind of step in and kind of again show that you're a sick kind of personality.
Yeah, so I actually have a whole kind of training on the art of delegation, and I think if people go to freemeup.info, they find more information on that. But basically, so it's a longer topic. But basically, if you really want to do a task right, you explain the why, you define the deadline and the urgency. So you give a priority to it. So if everything you delegate is urgent, needs to be done now.
That's me again.
Nothing is urgent. I know this is a therapy here. So this is
therapy session.
So you clearly want to create an outline of success. What does success look like? So you are actually defining what success look like. You define your no-goes. So for example, a typical mistake that people make when they are delegating, that I've seen delegating to their assistant, they are not clear in how do you want that to be done when it comes to, hey, please get in touch with so-and-so. If it's not outlined to say, okay, is it by text? Is it by WhatsApp? Is it a voice message? Is it a video? Is it a call? And I basically have rules for each one of them. If there's something to be negotiated, if there's something that needs to, that it could be a little bit uncomfortable, you need to call that person. Don't send a text. Don't send an audio message. You need to talk. And so basically you're giving that, and you're giving also basically what I call a decision filter. So that let's say you're delegating a task again to your assistant, and you're saying, up to $100, you make the call. Decide what is the best decision on these after what I've just get you, because otherwise they just come back to you and then you have to decide, I don't know, I have to look at the 3 different offers, or you give them the clear guidance to say, come up with the 3 options and give me your recommendation on what
this is actually, this is a huge one. So I've learned this one, and I absolutely love to apply this one. So if one of your employees comes to you and asks you a specific question on a specific task or a project that they're working on, then you can, in a sense, train them by asking the questions. Before I give you the answer on how to do it, please come up with 3 solutions that would help in the situation, and then make a recommendation. Which one out of these 3 would you recommend?
Yes.
And so I've seen how this can literally take care of 95% of all, me stepping in and making the decision. Is in a sense, I train them to be thinking through themselves on the solution side, not just on the mundane task side.
Exactly, and we are immediately stepping in, and that's where we have to kind of not think as the business owner who is a control freak, but as a coach who empowers people to actually play the game. So you are not playing as a business owner. You want to get to the point where you're not playing in the game anymore. You're the coach, giving maybe instructions. And maybe they're coming to you on the sideline, and you're helping with strategy. But basically, it's this image that people come into your office. I don't know where I heard it. It's used widely, but basically, they come into your office with monkeys on their shoulder. And the monkeys are a problem. And they want that monkey gets over to you. And at the end of the day, you have all these monkeys sitting on top of you. And so you want to make sure that there are no monkeys
in your room.
In your room. Because
take your monkey back.
Because what happens is basically if you own your job, let's say 100%, you don't need me. If you own your job 80%, then who owns the other 20%? I do as a business owner. But I already own my job 100%. So if I do that with all my team people, all of a sudden I am overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of so it's famously called the 1-3-1 rule that you just mentioned. I call it. I actually use the 1-2-1 rule. You have one problem, you give me 2 solutions. and you give me the best recommendation, and you tell it. And that training people, and then you can say, great, this is good. Or you say, you know what, I think I would do it better, would do it different through basically helping them code. That you do on all level, because that is really training people to think critically through these areas. Now, with
how do you do that with teenagers, by the way?
That's a good question.
Oh, you don't have teenagers.
I don't have teenagers, but I.
So I've learned some of this in the business life, but then I get home and then I mess it up, or they mess it up.
So with tasks, the last thing I would say is, you know, and I have a long list in our training, but you want to kind of say at what point do you want give feedback in. So even that you define so that there is clarity. So you really want, when it comes to tasks, you really need to kind of sit down and you know we do this with audio messages. You know, we click on a button and our assistant or operational manager, they get the message, and I basically talk in. But you know, there's a difference between a 30-second message and a 2-minute session, 2-minute message where I give more explanation, where I already anticipate what will be the questions that come back. You normally know what your assistant comes back with, and you go like, why are you asking me again? It's because you did not put it into the original message. Now, at some point, and here's the kicker, at some point, of course, you know, you get to a team members that kind of can read your brain, so to speak. But that will mean you are always staying with the same kind of a team, not growing, and very, very clearly, the more you can do this, and here's the superpower that will actually differ average people from any successful people in the future, is actually giving these kinds of instructions so that you can actually have AI do most of the tasks. A lot of what we're doing in the task area, I know we can't even fathom that yet, can be actually done by AI and by new companies that are created right now. So we need to become a master in actually delegating and identifying how do we give instructions to AI. Now, I just want to give kind of that. What helped me a lot is, like, if I want to delegate something to AI, the first thing I do is I identify, you know, who I want, ChatGPT to be. Let's say, you know, I want to look through my financials, and so I said, be a financial analyst, a CFO of a Fortune 500 company, and be the best in the world. And then I give him a task to say, look at my financial and give me three hidden assets that I should look at, or things that don't add up, or maybe things that I should look into, some problems, or does it all make sense? So I give them some instructions, and then I ask this question, and now interview me on any information that you need to actually do this task better. So your AI becomes your thought partner, your strategic thought partner, because the AI is interviewing you. If you give just a normal prompt, AI is trained to give you an average answer, because it basically looks at all of the answers and gives you the average answer. So you only become, AI only becomes a superpower when you can actually prompt it in a way that it falls under, outside of the average answer, by actually being more intentional about the context you are giving. So you basically let AI interview you on your situation. And once you kind of master that, you can have a superpower.
Well, I think people who are listening or watching this podcast, they have to walk away saying, Philip, you really understand your topic here. And I think this is one reason why we've created a whole coaching program for entrepreneurs and business owners, not just on the information level. You're providing some incredible content here because you're just a master at this topic, but you're actually coaching and training people how to implement it in their company. So just finish this session off by just saying, what exactly are you providing, through the coaching on helping that implement?
Yeah, so we have a coaching program called the Self-Managing Business Coaching Program, inspired by how Cosimo de Medici set up his banking empire. We look at how do we actually get to a place of not being in the day-to-day operations, so that we can work on the business, not on the business, not in the business. Now, it does not mean that it's a self-leading business. So we're not going into the investor role or in a board position. We are actually really into we are kind of the coach, using that example. So we are still in the business. We are still owning the business. We are still basically in the strategic side, but we are not kind of in the day-to-day operations. So we are setting up ways on how do we set up our marketing, how do we set up our sales, because that's kind of the foundation. So we need enough leads, we need enough convert enough leads into customers, and basically build that out through strategies, and then kind of really work on how do we do this for the operations so that we can actually free up our time.
Well, this is the vision that you kind of that they're given, and I mean, we have people left and right who are jumping into this program because this is literally what they're dreaming of. They don't want to be. They understand. I don't want to be a micromanager. I don't want to be in a 9 to 5 or 9 to 10 every day in my business. But I need some help. So where do people go if they really want to implement this in their company, not just on the information level, but really kind of implement?
Yeah.
This?
So go to medicilegacy.com/coaching, and that's where you can kind of apply for a call, and we can kind of jump on a call and look at your situation.
And do an assessment. I think we even do an assessment.
We do an assessment. If you go to freemeup.info, there's also some information that you can look at, and we actually take people through a framework of how do you actually set up a self-managing business. Yeah. So that was a great episode on delegation, a topic that I love because it really can only...
Well, it started with the sickness. It started with me being a sick guy.
It started with a sick guy. Yes. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.